You can join the conversation about tonight's show by using the hashtag 60Mins.
Welcome back to 60 Minutes. Carey is an Australian who should make us all extremely proud. She's a country nurse from Western Australia who sacrificed her own life back at home to volunteer on the frontline battle against the deadly Ebola virus in West Africa. It is a ghastly way to die, and the epidemic remains overwhelming, even though it fades from news. But amazingly, Anne and her medical friends look for hope, not despair, offering care and compassion while every day risking their own lives to comfort the sick and dying.
There comes a point where you know that they're going to die, so it's not much point in trying anything else except pain relief for them, to just make them comfortable. And you get used to that, I think, that look that when people are going to die.
This is such an angry virus, isn't it?
Angry virus, yeah. An angry virus, yeah. And it takes everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. It will take you if you let it in, it will take you.
Are you okay?
Yeah? Does that look all right?
Yeah.
Anne Carey is an unlikely warrior in the war against Ebola.
Okay, guys, thank you.
With saintly calm and compassion, this nurse from Esperance in Western Australia suits up to fight the killer virus.
I'm going to do a procedure that's very high risk, and that's taking bloods.
This is Ebola's epicentre. Only about half the patients who enter come out alive. Just one unprotected touch from the infected can be deadly. But Anne Carey knows a simple touch can also do so much. So much of your work, it strikes me, is care and comfort.
Yes.
How important is that?
Yeah, I just think touch is really important, and I find it hard that people have died by themselves inside. So if you know somebody's going to die and you can spend 40 minutes more, it's quite nice to do that so they're not so scared, because it must be really hard for them.
Anne is stationed here with the Red Cross, her third nursing assignment in a year to the West African nation of Sierra Leone. She's in the district of Kenema in the country's east. Here and in neighbouring nations, Ebola has infected nearly 23,000 people. More than 9,000 have died. Many people would question why. I mean, why come all the way here to help a virus that seems so overwhelming and unbeatable?
Yeah, but then it's just like people being beat up by bullies or something. You would respond to try and help and say that's unfair to do, so you would go forward and try and help.
It's an interesting way to describe this virus, that it's an unfair bully. Is that how you
Yes,
see Ebola?
I do, and sometimes you have to take the bullies on and win.
This is the bullies' home turf, eastern Sierra Leone, the scene of multiple Ebola outbreaks for the past year. At regular checkpoints, everyone is made to wash their hands with chlorine and have their temperature taken.
Hello, how are you? Good.
For most people, it's an absolute no-go zone.
6.2. All good? Thank you.
But Anne volunteered to serve here with the Red Cross. What first confronted you when you walked into the treatment centre and you saw your first Ebola patient?
I got dressed up in the protective suit, and there was a mother with her 4-week-old child, and that child, as soon as I came into the centre, it convulsed, so it fitted, and then it proceeded to bleed, like from everywhere, and it just bled to death. This mother was the mother of 7 children, and when this child died, she had nothing to live for.
She lost all her children.
Children, yeah, all 7.
How do you help in that circumstance?
I'm not sure of the answer to that, but what I did was just hold her hand. So I'm not sure if she found that helpful, but for me, I felt it was the only thing I could do, even though I was still in the protective suit. So I stayed with her a while and just held her hand. And that.
Further east again, in the district of Kono, new outbreaks have forced the Red Cross to build another treatment centre, a one-disease hospital. It doesn't take long to see that it's desperately needed. Unlike any other ER, this is a very slow and careful process. The doctors and the nurses now take meticulous effort and time to get into their protective suits. The patient is left very calmly in the ambulance for now until the medical team is ready to come out and assess their condition. Each ambulance is sprayed with chlorine. No matter how terrified or critical the patient inside must be, sterilising is crucial. Nothing about this can be rushed. It's a gut-wrenching process. Doctors and nurses have to keep their distance, not knowing the state of the patient until the doors open. And today it's the moment everybody here dreads. Not just one victim, but a family. A baby girl, her mother and her aunt. Once they step out, those poor people know they may die here. The virus attacks the immune system and every organ and tissue. Across barriers, doctors check off a list of symptoms: high temperatures, vomiting, diarrhoea. This is where it really hits you, and this is just such a terribly sad scene to witness. The young baby girl seems to be okay, but her mother isn't. She has some symptoms, so they've taken the mother away. They've separated mother and child. The mother's been taken to a different tent now. The fate of this little girl is unknown. From a distance, Ebola is devastating. Up close, it's frightening. These are the scrubs that allow us to go inside another zone. It's still an area that's risky, but allows us to go closer to the Ebola patients. I was allowed behind the risk barriers for a limited time under strict supervision. All of these tents house Ebola patients, and they're arranged in order of severity. The last 2 tents are listed as suspected cases. If, of course, the symptoms then increase, the patients are moved to these tents. They're listed as probable. And then if the Ebola virus is in full force, it is ravaging their bodies, they're moved here to these last 3 tents. Then they're confirmed cases of Ebola. This man is in the confirmed tent. By now, his organs are failing, his fever rages and nose bleeds. He's at the mercy of Ebola.
This is the most tragic of sights. I mean, there is another victim.
And actually, she's a mother of 4 kids. She was very heavy loaded with virus because you can sort of see the amount of aggressivity of the virus. But this mother, yesterday when I left, I was sure I was going to find her dead today.
Oh dear. A mother of 4.
Yeah.
Canadian doctor Danielle Perreault has been in Sierra Leone for a month. Her morning shift starts with a check of who's survived the night. If the chemical team is scrubbing empty beds with chlorine, it means the worst. But not even death kills this insidious virus. Ebola becomes even more contagious in its victims' corpses. Burying the dead requires extreme vigilance. Bodies and body bags are drenched in chlorine. These burial sites adjoining Red Cross hospitals reveal Ebola's true toll. A remorseless virus that will kill a 50-year-old as quickly as a 1-year-old. Regardless, everyone is buried with dignity. Anne and her Red Cross team make sure their care and compassion extends all the way to the grave. Not long after the burial is complete, the gravediggers go back to work, trying to stay ahead of the numbers. I mean, I'm wondering how you're affected by their suffering.
I think there'll be a time when I grieve later on, but while you're here, because of the suffering and that, like, it's just to be hard to do that. Like, there's not a time to do that, I don't think. But I think at the same time, the protective suit that you wear, I think protects you a little bit, like from if you went in every day just without a protective suit, I don't know how you would cope with that. So by wearing the suit, I think it shields you a little bit, shields your heart and your head maybe a little bit from your emotions to deal with that later.
On meeting Anne, I think she's remarkable. Is that a way that you would view her as well?
Yep. She places a great deal of value on qualities in life and values in life that most of the rest of the world now trivialise and don't see as important.
Donald Howarth is Anne Carey's partner. They keep in regular contact on the phone.
Hi, Donald, is that you?
And on email. The time apart is tough and he worries, but as a doctor, he understands why she does it.
One of the great privileges of being a health worker is you watch a lot of people die and it makes you a bit more philosophic about how you're using your time.
Back in West Africa, scientists now believe this little boy from Guinea was the first patient, infected after coming in contact with a bat that carried the Ebola virus. Ignorance, fear and stigma allowed it to spread across neighbouring countries, Liberia and Sierra Leone.
And then I'm going to pack my bags and come back
Okay.
to Canada.
But there is hope. Edwin Konawa was infected with the Ebola virus 8 months ago and was near death. But against all the odds, he survived.
To say that you got Ebola, it is a shocking news.
Was there a stage where you thought that you might die?
Yes, of course, when I was told that I'm positive.
Edwin was exposed to the virus working as a nurse at a local health clinic. He's now returned to nursing with Anne, and amazingly, he has immunity. He's donating his blood to save other Ebola patients. So there you're using your blood
Yes.
to help the infected patients.
Exactly.
And as a nurse, you're back helping care
Exactly.
for Ebola patients.
Yes, exactly.
Ebola is an overwhelming health crisis for the locals and the medics who care for them. Sometimes the news is good, like the baby girl separated from her mother and aunt. They've all now been cleared of Ebola. And Anne's hospital in Kenema is, for now, patient-free. But the young man lying helplessly outside the confirmed tent did not make it through the night. There may be no cure, but there are people like Anne Carey who vow to keep standing up to that unfair bully called Ebola. Do you feel like you've been fighting a war, or do you feel like you are fighting a war?
I feel like I still am, but I feel like we're going to win the war. Because of everybody's help from around the world and the local staff who, have worked so hard. So I think we've got to win the war, but I feel like we will. I think in the end we'll get there.